Moving on to the next segment of today's show, I thought it would be a perfect time to talk about the big game of week number 5 in the NFL, and that is going to be Sunday Night Football. 3-1 Buffalo Bills, 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, and these two teams will be matching up for the first time since they fought in that AFC Championship game last year. Kansas City, after getting off to a tough start in that one, they were down 10-0, I believe. They came back to ultimately win that game and move on to the Super Bowl. And it's interesting because throughout the offseason, the Buffalo Bills have been the team that a lot of people labeled to be the top challenger to Kansas City in the AFC coming into the season. And Kansas City rightfully deserves the title, at least they did going into this season, of being the top team, the top dog in the AFC. Kansas City, since Mahomes has been the starter, has made the AFC Championship game at least in each of his first 3 seasons. They obviously win the Super Bowl in 2019. Mahomes wins an MVP in 2018. And then in 2020, Kansas City goes all the way to the Super Bowl before they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's interesting because going into the season, the reason why I wasn't 100% on the Buffalo Bills bandwagon in terms of them being the top dog in the AFC was because last year, as great as they were and as great as Josh Allen was, they really only had one way to beat you, and that was to just outscore you. Buffalo couldn't run the ball, and their defense was about average last year. However, it didn't really matter because Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and their offense was that good. They would literally be out here scoring 30 to 40 points a game. They set plenty of records in terms of the offense of Buffalo Bills history. Most points, most touchdowns, most yards. Stephon Diggs led the NFL in catches, and Buffalo's offense last year was legit. Now going into this year, Kansas City as a team has shown some weaknesses. First of all, they've lost 2 games, something that before this season doesn't really happen to Patrick Mahomes in the month of September. In this month of September, Mahomes lost his first 2 games ever in that month, and even threw his first career interception in the month of September, which is something absolutely bonkers, something that you would really never expect to see a quarterback go that long playing 16 games throughout a month and not being able to throw an interception. He finally got his first one against Baltimore, and the Ravens were able to take advantage and win that game against the Los Angeles Chargers. Mahomes threw a couple interceptions, especially the late one attending for Kelsey that wasn't even close. That arguably cost Kansas City that game against the Chargers. And even last week against Philadelphia, Mahomes and the Chiefs offense played great. There was never really a point in that game where I expected Philadelphia to step on the gas and win. However, it was closer, too close for comfort than a lot of Chiefs fans would have wanted. And Mahomes even threw an interception in that game. And I think Buffalo, throughout the first 3-4 games of the season, even though their offense hasn't been perfect, and it's been good, they were able to put up 40 points last week. They were able to torch the Washington football team on defense. They were able to put up points against Miami. They still haven't really been able to run the ball, and Josh Allen hasn't looked as good as he has last year, but he's still been fine. He's still been getting the job done, and the most important part is the Buffalo Bills have been able to win football games after losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 1, and going back, that is going to be a result that a lot of fans are just going to look at and say, how did that happen? The way the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing right now, the way the Bills are playing right now, the Steelers were really able to go into Buffalo and win with Ben Roethlisberger under center. That's what makes the NFL the best sport, in my opinion, is that we could just have crazy things like that go on that don't make sense from any perspective. However, going into this game, I think it is so big for the Buffalo Bills in particular. Number one, I believe that home field advantage, if you're going to ask me which team in the NFL, really as a whole the AFC, but really the whole NFL, I would say, which team would home field advantage in the playoffs and the number 1 seed mean the most to? In my opinion, the answer to that question is the Buffalo Bills. We know just how big of an impact Bills Mafia makes for this squad. The Bills didn't even lose a home game last year, and they lost their first one this year with fans to Pittsburgh, as we mentioned earlier. But once again, that game, the more and more evidence and data we get, is just looking like it was a complete outlier. And if those two teams play again, especially in Orchard Park, New York, odds are the Bills win that game. But Buffalo, I think if they want to go to the Super Bowl, they need to prioritize getting that number one seed in the AFC and making sure the playoffs go through Buffalo. And they could do that with a win. They could really put their foot on the gas pedal, especially over a team like Kansas City, if they could get this win. If Buffalo wins this game, they go to 4-1. Kansas City goes to 2-3, which would give Buffalo a 2-game lead in terms of the race to the 1 seed. But not only that, keep in mind, Buffalo would also get the tiebreaker in that scenario if they win, because head-to-head, they would have the advantage. So, in other words, a win over Kansas City in this spot would give Buffalo a 3-game lead for the 1 seed in the AFC, which would be great for them. Right now, Buffalo does look like the clear favorite in the AFC, given how New England and Miami have really disappointed over their first couple games. And I totally understand it's the NFL. There are so many things that could change from start to finish when it comes to the season and in particular division races. But at the same time, Buffalo does look like they are the best team in the AFC East right now, pretty clearly. Kansas City, you can't really say that about the division they're in. First of all, they lost to the Los Angeles Chargers at home. And I get it, historically, that's not a game they lose, especially the way they turn the ball over in that game. But the Chargers look legitimate right now. I was someone that was high on the Chargers going into the season, and keep in mind, they have only gotten better, I think, since the season has started off. I know they were able to find a way to win at Arrowhead Stadium, but they still looked like the Chargers in some aspects, doing it, just taking dumb penalties to take points off the board, messing up in the absolute worst of times, and still, the Chiefs were not able to take advantage of that, and the Chargers were able to get the win. When it comes to Kansas City, here's what I think. Is there a realistic chance Buffalo wins this game? Absolutely. I think Buffalo, at least to start the season, has had a better defense. And even, I don't care who Buffalo's been playing. They just shut out an NFL team. And Kansas City, they can't even get off the field at all. The Eagles really didn't even have to punt in that game against Kansas City. And every time an opposing offense gets in the red zone against this Kansas City Chiefs defense, it kind of feels like a wrap. They're going to score. And Kansas City, if they want to win football games, their defense needs to play better. Steve Spagnuolo is a defensive coordinator that has won multiple Super Bowls throughout the course of his career. They also have a lot of the same guys on this defense that were able to do just enough for this unit to get them all the way to a Lombardi trophy. I'm talking about guys like Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, and Chris Jones and Frank Clark. Those are the two guys that are hopefully healthy and that need to make a big impact on defense. Jones is obviously a stud whenever he's on the field, but Frank Clark, a guy who was a key piece to the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs a couple of years ago. He has been MIA as of late. So has Jarran Reed, who was supposed to be their big offseason addition on the defensive side of the ball. The Chiefs need their defense to play better. And Buffalo, lucky for them, their defense has been much better than anyone could have really expected, albeit against some weak opponents. I'm going to be curious to see against Kansas City's offense on the road, could Buffalo's defense make enough plays to just somehow limit the Chiefs and give their offense the opportunity to just outscore them by getting some stops. Another thing about Kansas City going into this game, right? A lot of people have asked me, if the Chiefs lose this game, where do they go from here? You basically just said, given a Bills win, they would be the favorite to get the number one seed in the AFC, and the playoffs would go through Orchard Park in that conference. When it comes to Kansas City, here's my opinion. They have dominated the regular season over the past couple of years, right? They have been that clear favorite in the AFC West that not a lot of people could beat. And that has translated in division games. Before this year, the Chiefs really played well against the Chargers. They would play well against Denver and the Raiders. And this year they lose their first divisional game, and right now it just so happens that the AFC West is one of the best divisions in the NFL, where Kansas City, sitting with a record of 2-2, is in last place. They're only one game back, but the Raiders are 3-1, the Broncos are 3-1, and the Chargers are 3-1. And I do think once Kansas City gets an opportunity to play teams like the Raiders and the Broncos head to head, that's when they'll be able to make up ground. And I would be shocked if Kansas City misses the playoffs, right? I don't see a scenario where that happens unless Patrick Mahomes gets hurt or something goes seriously wrong. I have that amount of trust and belief in this Kansas City offense. And if they do make the playoffs, even if they don't win the division, if they make the playoffs as like a 5 or 6 seed, that is going to be a team that no one is going to want to see in their building going forward. However, Kansas City should want to get that number 1 seed in the AFC as well. They really were able to ride that bye week all the way into a Super Bowl appearance for the second year in a row, and that bye week had a lot to do with it. We're seeing much more holes with Kansas City this year than we've seen last year and really the year before that. I'm not going to lie, this defense does give me some vibes of the defense in 2018, the year Patrick Mahomes was able to win MVP. But the reason why that Kansas City team wasn't able to get to a Super Bowl was because their defense just couldn't get off the field. No matter how good their offense was, their defense just ultimately cost them in the end. And that is going to happen again this year if their defense doesn't at least play a little bit better. I'm just curious to see, is Buffalo the team that's going to be able to take advantage of Kansas City's mistakes on a prime time spot, on national TV, at Arrowhead Stadium, on the road? Can Buffalo do what they haven't been able to do in years past and finally capture the dragon of Kansas City? The other thing about the AFC and the playoff race this week is I think you could absolutely make a narrative and an argument like I did earlier in this show where the 4 best teams in the AFC are all playing each other this week. I think right now, the 4 best teams in the AFC, in no order, are Buffalo and Kansas City. They're going to be playing each other on Sunday Night Football. And obviously, the game Sunday afternoon between the Browns and the Chargers, I think those 2 teams are probably 3 and 4 in the AFC right now, if not higher. So the 4 best teams in the AFC, in my opinion, in no order, Buffalo, Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Browns, they're all going to be playing each other this week, which sets us up for a great week of football. Chiefs, Bills, I can't wait. There are going to be so many narratives on the line. If Buffalo wins, the conversations on Monday are going to be, wow, Buffalo is now the team to beat in the AFC. They went into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. They could beat anyone at any time. Josh Allen is legit, and I know he already is legit. He's one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, but this would be the biggest regular season win of his career. And then you look at Mahomes and the Chiefs, even though they've struggled a couple times throughout the first 2 games, if they could go out here and beat the Bills, I feel like the narrative is going to be, okay, Kansas City is back. Well, we know what they're going to do against teams like the Raiders and the Broncos in that AFC West. The AFC, just like it has the last couple of years, runs through Kansas City. And I'm not going to lie, folks, I'm excited for this football game. Bills, Chiefs, Sunday Night Football, for that top spot in the AFC, in my opinion. I do think the winner of this game is going to be considered the best team in the AFC and really have a nice path towards the 1 seed and home field advantage in the playoffs.